Well, good morning. Hey, Joel Buhr here with BEGrowthDriven. I've taken back over the stage this week after Audrey took it over last week with Chelsea Matthews, and I figured, hey, we figured what better way to follow it up than to bring on Martin Matthews today. So we're going to be talking about the basically the foundation of your fortune, or where your fortune is going. It's an important thing, especially when you're looking for different ways to grow in all aspects of life. The important question along the way, are you in the driver's seat of your fortune? So let's go ahead and bring on Martin Matthews. Let me go ahead and get you unmuted there. Martin, good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Hey, Joel, thanks for having me on, buddy. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we really enjoyed getting to know you guys here over, since GrowthCon. And of course, we've known you since before that. But just for the sake of the audience, can you maybe introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background.
Yeah, sure. So, Martin Matthews, I'm a young kid from Liberia, West Africa. I grew up in a very crazy, wild environment where most of my childhood was, I saw poverty on one hand, and I lived in a situation where there was a bunch of civil war. So throughout my childhood, I lived in a decades-long civil war, and just in a region that I was in. So you saw a lot of poverty going around. You saw a lot of refugees. You saw a lot of disruption. And so as a kid, I would always be very concerned about money and finances. Like, how does that work? How do people have money to take care of themselves? How do they take care of their families? And I was fortunate enough that my father was he used to work in the government. He used to be the Secretary of State for my country. And every day people would come to our house to ask my father for money. And I mean, because there weren't any social programs in my country like that. So to survive, you literally had to often go to beg somebody for money. So you show up at somebody's house and you beg them for money. And so I would sit in a corner, listen to their stories, and that made an impact on me as a child. Because when you're poor and there's a war breaking out, you barely have food to eat that day. How are you going to survive? You don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of resources. So I was always interested in, how do people build wealth? And I thought, if you're gonna figure out how to build wealth, you ought to go to America, figure out how to get to America, because everybody's rich in America, right? That's what I thought. That's what I thought before I got here. So, I got here, and then I got into the financial industry, and so I've built a business from there.
Awesome. Now, how did, and this is how you got connected with your wife, Chelsea. We talked about that a couple episodes back. And so really your roots of kind of looking back, it's made a big impact on you, kind of like the struggles that you saw people have in relation to just their finances. Is that maybe an accurate statement?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one of the first kind of data pieces of information I observed as a kid to be true for me was, number one, I felt like money seems to be important to everybody, because they show up here every day asking for it. So clearly, I'm talking about being a little kid, 5, 6 years old. I'm seeing this stuff, and throughout my teenage years, I would see all this, and I thought money's important to everybody, but it seems like a lot of people don't have it. So they have to. Their way to get it is to come here and ask for it. And so that's what I started to learn about money first, is that one, is important to everybody. And number two, most people don't have enough of it. Right. But then I'm like, there's got to be people who do. There's got to be somebody who knows how this thing works and how to get it and what to do with it. So, but that was my viewpoint on money from just a young age. It was one of the first things I learned about life, was that money is important to everybody, and most people don't have enough of it.
Right. So now that motivated you to start to learn, how do I solve this problem? Like, how did these other people solve this problem? I would imagine, right?
Yeah, to me, because even though it's an interesting culture I grew up in. So my father was a prominent guy in our country. So people knew me, and adults would come and ask me for money. So as a kid, I didn't have a lot of uses for money. Besides, I would actually keep money that I would give to people. So I used to have a pocket that I would put money into, and it was kind of my giving pocket. So people would come up to me and ask for money, and I would give things to them. I would give money to them like that. And so that to me was the first use of money. It was a tool to help people with.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, if I want to help, because I'm driven to help people. And so if I want to help people, I realized I needed to have a lot of money in order to do it, because if you didn't have the resources, I couldn't help as much as I wanted to. And so that led me to wanting to come to America, because one, I was trying to escape a civil war, but number two, I was looking for prosperity. Where do I go that I could have an opportunity to prosper? And this country seemed to be the place that I could come to that would give me the best opportunity to be in the driver's seat, to have a chance to go and build my fortune and build prosperity, not just for myself, but also for others.
Wow. Okay. Now, along the way, what's been like some of the big challenges that you've discovered that people go through when it comes to this thing called money?
Well, not knowing how to get it.
Okay.
Seems to be the biggest thing, because we live in a planet where people exchange with each other, right? You need capital. That's the medium of exchange we have in our society we've created, is we exchange through money. We exchange this thing called money. So we don't exchange. You don't go to a store and hand the guy, eggs for bread anymore. You don't go and hand him, milk for something else he's got. You go and you hand him money, and then you buy the things you want. And then he takes that money and buys other things he wants. So money's a substitute for things. Money's a substitute for goods and services.
Right.
But the problem was, most people didn't seem to know how to get it. How do I get it? And Grant talks about this. How do you get it? How do you keep it? And how do you multiply it?
Right.
So a lot of people didn't seem to know how to get it. I didn't know how to get it. My father died when I was 23 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was just kind of getting my life started. And my dad was my hero. And when he died, it was jarring to me. He was 59 years old when he died. And it meant two things. One, I wouldn't be able to see my father alive again. But number two, it meant I would have to help take care of my mom. Well, I'm 23 years old. I don't know exactly how to really make money. So what do? I need to learn. So I was here in America at the time. But what I realized was, even though I came here to America, most people didn't know how to make a lot of money either.
Right.
And so that was one of the first barriers I had to overcome in the drive to try to help to take care of my mother, try to help to take care of my grandmother, was, how do I make money? How do I make more than just my basic necessities that I need? Mm-hmm. And so it came from starting to understand that, one, I needed to, that was one of the first barriers anyway. So it was like, first, how do I make money? And then from there, what do I do with it? So that became how I started my journey. I was always interested in money, but then I needed answers to those questions. So I actually started looking for mentors who could teach me how to make money.
Okay.
I found a guy who was in the financial industry. So I was already interested in money. And I meet a guy who's in the financial industry. And he had been doing this for a long time. He was in the financial industry and he did real estate.
Right.
And so he just happened to, he moved, he was in a different city. He moved back to San Diego, where I was at the time. He moved back there, and he was just back in town. He was out and about. He went to a bookstore, and he and I struck up a conversation, and I asked him what he did. He just had a swagger about him. Now, right. Okay, there's something about this guy. So I asked him what he did, and we talked about that. He talked about money and real estate. And he explained his business that he was expanding, what he was doing with that business. And literally at the end of one, he taught me more about money than I had learned my whole life so far in one conversation. Right. He was like, I'm like, dude, I've been in America a few years. I want to make money. What do rich people do? What did it do with their money? How did it make it? Where did it keep it? How did it buy cars? Which bank accounts they use? How did it do stuff? I wanted to know. Nobody could tell me. And right. So that guy broke it down in one conversation. And then I said, man, how can I do what you're doing? I want to do that. That's the thing I want to do. And so that began my start in the financial industry. And that was about almost 15 years ago when I met that guy. So I was very fortunate to meet him. And he became my first mentor. And he and I are still partners today. We partner on a lot of stuff. We do stuff. We do stuff in the financial field and things like that. So
very cool. Do you think a challenge that people have, do you think they overcomplicate the whole process?
Yes.
I mean, That's what I've seen over time. That's what I've learned myself. I know that in the very beginning, I overly complicated business and finances and everything else. And it added more white noise that didn't really help matters, to try to get to that stage.
It's very simple. And when you break it down, it becomes very logical. This is $100 bill.
Right.
I had to do something for someone to get this.
Right.
It had to be valuable enough, whatever it is I'm doing, whatever the product or service is, whatever it is I'm doing, it had to be valuable enough to the person that they were willing to exchange this $100 with me for that thing.
Right.
So if I want more $100 bills, I simply need to have something valuable that I can exchange with somebody and identify who those people are and promote it to them and tell them, hey, here's how you can get this from me. And then I get exchange. The more I can do that and the more successfully I can do that, the more of these I have. Then I have another problem.
Absolutely.
What to do with it.
Right.
But first I got to get it. And that's where people get complicated. And people think they need to have a fancy website. They think everything's got to be perfect. They think everything's got to look great, all of that. So we have staff in our office. In order for me to pay our staff, I have to be able to go and get money from the marketplace. If I can't get money from the marketplace, I can't pay my staff.
Right.
If I can't go out and drive the revenue in the business, my business will not succeed. The number one rule in our business is the business has to continue to stay in business.
Right.
It has to continue to roll on. So if you just have some simple ideas like that, hey, if I want to make money, complaining is not going to make me money. Whining, all that's not going to make. I need something I can exchange with somebody for this money. And if I can get that concept, just that basic thing in my mind, then I have a good foundation to roll on.
Right. I've seen a lot of people, they get really clouded, especially maybe it's somebody that doesn't own a business, or maybe they even do own a business, and they're focused on, what's in it for them versus keeping that entity that's providing for them alive. Right. Yeah. And then that mission. And there's where, a lot of people want stability. You ask somebody what they're after. They're like, well, I just want stability. I want to know that I can pay my bills. Right. Well, I think there's a level of balance. Like if somebody's just getting started, it's like, especially if they're working for somebody else. Okay. Then your number one mission is help that entity be the best entity, the best company it can be, because that's going to take care of you. And that by virtue of that, you're going to have that level of stability. Now, at that point, though, too, people need to go higher. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. When I got my first job, my mission was to pay my bills. Yeah. And then, okay, so now I'm paying my bills. What else? What else can I do? Okay, so I need to be able to pay my bills and save some money. Right. Okay, so now I pay my bills and I can save some money. What else? Then I need to figure out how to grow the money. So it's like the gradient steps of what you're doing. And what I want to do is, part of my mission in my business is not just for our customers. I'm building a business also for our staff, because I want our staff to be with us for a long time. So I'm building a business so that as the business grows and expands, they can be more and more successful. I want people who work with us to end up making more money here than it would make somewhere else. And in order for me to do that feasibly, I have to make the business successful. And the idea is that they're not going to be limited, that they're not going to be limited by just what they make today, but they could get to a point where they share in the profits of the company, where they get to a point where they feel like they can take ownership of what we're doing, because they're helping to build the business, not just working at a job. And then, eventually people may not stay with us forever. They may want to go and do other things. But at the same time, you want to give them a foundation so that they can be successful with us to the degree that they want to be successful with us. So it's important to have that, whether you work for somebody else. This is one thing that, if people understand it, it makes a big difference for them. Right. your income, no matter if you work for somebody else or not, your income comes from your production.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Your income comes from your production.
Right.
So if you don't produce anything, if you work for somebody else, you're not going to work there anymore. They're going to get rid of you because you're not producing. If you're producing, you become more valuable to that company. You become a greater asset. Becoming an asset to the company is also an asset to yourself, because then the company values you, and then the company can reward that because you produce something. So that's what it comes down to, production.
Well, there's something that goes back to as far as people will only exchange money for something that's of greater value, right? You know, so if you're going to pay $5 for something, that thing is going to be worth more than $5 to you. So the same way too, kind of going like back to production here, like if you want to get paid more, then produce more than the value you're getting paid for, and it's going to go up.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing people fail to do, you got to keep, if you work for somebody else, keep stats of your production.
Yep, there you go.
This proves your production is happening.
Right.
So we have our content creator. So he produces content. We go through and we look at, okay, what's in action. So he has stats on his actions, completed actions. So there's his graph. You can see his graph. His graph goes up. So what does that mean when his graph goes up? It means he's producing.
Right.
So when you work for somebody else, the more that you can prove that you're producing, the more you can demonstrate, hey, look, this is what I have produced. It's not based on rumor. It's not based on somebody's opinion. It's based on your stats and your graph. This is my production. This is what I produced. This is what I have contributed. Right. So even if you're a receptionist, count how many calls you're doing, how many calls you're taking in, how many people did you schedule? We have people at our gym. They're great front office people, and they actually get you sold on personal training. They should keep stats on how many people that got signed up for personal training, how many people they referred. They should keep stats on all of that, so that they can show, hey, look, this is how many people I've sent over to personal training. This is how many people signed up. This is how many people I greeted throughout the day. People are welcome. All that stuff. This is how many people I signed up for new membership. All of that, you keep stats on that. It shows your value, your production to that business.
Well, and it also gives you that clear picture of like, hey, if I just did this much more effort, it could equal this. Yeah. And so, when you're looking for, we're talking a lot about, hey, what people fail to do, and those types of things, which I think is good, because people need to be aware of where they might be falling into the same trap. Because, listen, let's face it, someone that's watching this show right here, they're looking at ways that they can grow, ways that they can benefit. But going back to those stats, if they just look at, okay, just a little bit more, I can change this and it should equal this. And so what about some of the things that people maybe do right when they're focusing on that driver's seat position for their fortune?
Most of the things people do right are basic. Very basic thing. Like you take Warren Buffett, for instance.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett says don't lose money. That's his number one rule of investing. He doesn't invest in things he doesn't know or understand.
Right.
Like he'll tell you, hey, I don't understand enough about that. I could be a multi-billionaire, but if I don't understand enough about that particular investment,
right,
I'm not going to do it. So Warren follows basic rules. The first basic rule of your money in your household, whether it's a business or a household, is that, and it's super basic, but sometimes people skip the basics. It's your income must be greater than your expenses plus reserves. So the money coming in has to be greater than the money going out plus reserves. Right. So what ends up happening, and if somebody does this right, if I keep my income higher than my expenses and I'm able to build reserves, I can stay solvent. I can handle my expenses unless something major catastrophic happens. And if I have some insurance and different things like that to handle that risk, I can go through life in most cases just fine. So those are the kinds of things that the super basics. If you're keeping your expenses, your income greater than your expenses, plus having reserves, that's somebody's doing something right. It works well with a business. It works well because at some point, the reason why reserves are important is because when we have a condition, there's different conditions anything can be operating in. So there's a condition called affluence where your stats are going up. There's a condition called was going up super high. There's a condition called normal where it's kind of incrementally going up. There's a condition called emergency when it's either flat or going down. That's a state of emergency. First thing you do when your business is in the condition of emergency is you promote. You spend more on promotion if you need to. Now, if you don't have reserves and your business are going down, and you're like, shit, I'm making less money this month or last month than I did before. If you don't have reserves or you don't have the ability to promote, you actually contract on your promotion. You stop promoting instead of what you should be doing, which is promote more.
Right.
That's how you're going to turn it back around.
Yeah, and a lot of people will like when hard times hit, they'll pull back on the promotion versus lean into that promotion. This last year and a half was a prime opportunity for a lot of companies to lean in, and some of those that some went out of business because of a number of variables, but some went out of business just simply because they hesitated to lean in and promote. And now, here's a question, and I think you'll agree with me on this one too. It's kind of maybe a rhetorical, but it's, it's not just promotion for the company, but it's promotion for yourself as a professional as well. It's building that brand. A lot of people, I think, will miss that small little aspect because if they're not promoting themselves, how do they expect anyone else to buy into them?
Yeah, it lets people know you're still in business.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. No matter if tough times come, I'm going to still continuing operations. So in January, we opened a new office. We decided we would expand and we would hire more staff. And then we would bring a lot of things that we were outsourcing. We would bring that in-house, and take on and make the investment in the people that would be in-house to help us scale it because we can move a lot faster. And then we can promote more. A lot of it was designed so that we would have the ability to promote more and test things. So it comes down to a lot of that where, certain things can be outsourced. It doesn't all have to be in-house because you've got a marketing company where companies and businesses would hire you to help do some of those marketing pieces. So there's some things you can't just do all in-house. There's some things you may want to do outside. But then there's some things you need staff for that's in-house with certain aspects of things that you're creating. So or things you're doing. So that's expansion is always good, and you need promotion to expand.
Right. I like one of the since we're both in the 10X community, one of the masterminds I went to, really talked about as far as, breaking down maybe. So for someone that's going to put themselves in that driver's seat of their fortune, look at the things that you're most effective with. Since we're talking about staff and growing and those types of things, look at the things you're most effective with. This is where it's the most profitable area for you to be involved, and look for all the other things that you're doing that's not, and then hire people to take care of those things, and then focus your time on the more profitable time periods. And I'm sure you've done that in your situation. What have you seen from those results? From doing that?
Well, the things that you do well, you move faster on.
Yeah.
When you move fast and you can get things done faster, your business can get into what's called a condition of power. Very powerful, strong business. If your business moves super slow, it's harder to get into a condition of power because everything's taking long and all that. So in order for you to move faster, you need to be able to focus on certain key things you do well, and then have other people support the other things they do well. Like, for example, I'm not the most organized person. My wife Chelsea is. We try to hire different people who can be organized, but I'm the guy who I will push through. I'll go. Let's get the thing done. Let's go do it now. Let's go execute on this. And so part of my job is to drive some of the marketing, drive some of that stuff, drive some of the promotions and all these different things. But I'm not as organized as my wife is. Right. So my wife Chelsea wears the hat of keeping things organized and running smoothly. Like, she runs the calendar. She runs and handles lots of different things like that because she is way more organized than I am. If I try to do her hat, I wouldn't. Like, I hate Excel spreadsheets. Like, it takes me forever to do them. She does them well. I just, for whatever reason, I can't. Excel spreadsheets just take me forever. I got to do all the different. I move so slowly with it, so I can't spend my time doing those kinds of things because they just it would take me longer.
Right.
So the things I'm good at, you focus on those things, and man, you're happier because you're focusing on the things you're great at, and then you hire people who are great at those things. There's people who are great at organization. Yeah, hire them to do that. They'll be happy because they're doing the thing that they like to do and they're contributing to the overall motion. So that's find people who are great at those other things that you're not good at, and you guys will roll well with them. Find good people, and you guys will roll well.
Yeah, they say something like right person, right role, right person, wrong role, and wrong person, wrong role. That last one you probably got to get rid of there probably pretty quickly, but. Yeah. It's find somebody that's that right role to help you get organized and separate things out. And you and your wife work together. You're a husband-wife team, like my wife and I too. And so it's, even within that team structure, that going back to that driver's seat of your fortune, right? You have to, as a couple, figure out, okay, I'm really good at this and I'm really good at this, and realize that by both doing those things you're really good at, it's elevating both of you. Not one over the other, but elevating both of you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Very rarely are couples the exact same approach or the exact same. Like Chelsea and I are. I mean, we have so many different backgrounds. Different backgrounds, but we have the same place we're trying to get to. That's the main thing. We have different main skill sets, so we work well together. In that sense, because we complement each other, both in our marriage and in the business. So that's how it rolls, man.
Well, and you guys even wrote a book about that, right? So, Jessica Brothers was talking about here as far as, there we go. Let's fight about money.
Yeah. Awesome. That looks cool on there. Jessica, your book's on its way. So yeah, Let's Fight About Money. We wrote that book about couples and money. And the entire book was about how we approach money differently.
Right.
I grew up with the data I had growing up was that money's made to be spent. So I get money, I spent it. So I couldn't even hold on to money. I would get it, I would go spend it. And then Chelsea grew up with the data that if you don't hold on to this money, you're gonna be broke. You're gonna have no money. So she became like she clinging on to the money. She doesn't want to spend any money. So just because of her life experience. So she was more of a saver and I was more of a spender.
Right.
So how do we take these two different personalities and then bring them together? So we merged them and we became what we now call wealth creators. How do you take her viewpoint about saving and spending money, and my viewpoint about spending money? So a lot of times I'm spending on something that'll improve our business, improve myself. We just had a discussion about this morning. It was like I do personal training with a trainer. Chelsea grew up in a gym. I didn't grow up in a gym. I need the accountability of a trainer. Chelsea can go work out on her own. She can do that. She used to be a trainer. Our son, fantastically disciplined. He just turned 16. He goes to the gym several times a week. He takes himself there. He comes back. Fantastically disciplined on that front. I am not. I need the trainer there. That's just how I am. So I need to pay the trainer. I'm like, I need more days with the guy. So she and I were just talking about this, and I'm like, it's going to cost me more money to do it. And so she's like, well, you're already paying a lot now. So we have to have, we still have talking about it, because it's like, I need more days with the guy, because it's just, I don't have on my own. I go there sometimes on my own, but I won't have the same level of accountability as if I have him there. And so couples have to work through that. Business partners have to work through that. Do you have different personalities, and how do you work together for the common good of where you're trying to go?
Right. Well, in your book, I brought the image back up here because the key things that, and I love that you guys highlighted this on your book, is how to communicate about money. Right. I think that's a critical component there too. And, then how to handle the conflicts, because they're going to happen. You're going to say, so you got to figure out, how am I going to handle that when those situations come up, and how you're going to get through them. So you don't have to break out the boxing gloves,
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Is that something, as you guys have over the years, I'm sure you guys have found like better ways to communicate, better ways to handle the conflict, and that's just simply not only strengthened your relationship, but also individually how does it help you, do you think?
Well, it's helped us because it makes things a lot smoother. If
Right.
you're going to be in the driver's seat of your fortune, whether it's at the household level, business level, whatever level it's at, you have to be able to confront money, confront issues around money, confront what you're doing with your money, how you're handling it, how are you using it to build wealth and build your fortune. So if you can't confront money in your own household with somebody that you're in a relationship with or married to or living with or whatever it is, if you can't confront money with them, how are you going to confront money in the marketplace? The first thing, you got to confront that with them and get that person with you in what you guys are doing. So it only happens if you have the tools where you can communicate without fighting about it, and then get to a place where people have agreement. That's what the whole communication thing is about, agreement. How do we get to a stage of agreement on what we're doing so that we can execute on this versus like fighting each other? We're fighting for each other. We're fighting for the family's prosperity. We're fighting for the generational wealth we're going to leave to our kids and grandkids. That's what we're trying to do.
I would say probably maybe, and I'm sure you probably have some excellent tips, and I want you to share those excellent tips that couples could use to maybe, if you were to highlight two of those tips that for couples to communicate about money, what would they be?
Number one, we talk regularly about it. So we do cash flow once a week. So
Okay.
Chelsea she goes over, reviews everything. She sends me a report, and I look at the report, and we discuss what we need to discuss. And then the second thing is not invalidating the other person, not making the other person wrong for their views, some of their views on money. Look, our views are informed by a lot of ways how we grew up. So number one, talk about your money. Even if you have to schedule a discussion, hey, we're gonna meet for 10 minutes on Thursday, and we're gonna talk about what financial condition everything's in. Okay, how the bank account's looking, how this looking. So that's one thing they should do as a couple. Talk about the money. It doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation, but schedule a time to do it and make it regular each week. Where are we at? I look at it every day. Chelsea and I talk about it every day, but once a week, if you're just getting started with something like that, is fine. Second thing that you got to do is when you're having this conversation, don't seek to invalidate or make the other person wrong, because it will lead to more conflict. Hey, you spent this money. What happened? I spent the money because there was a sale. Okay, well, is there any way we can create a system where you're not spending the money just because you see a sale happening, and that we have a process in which we determine what we're going to buy, what we're not going to buy.
Right.
Okay? So there's no invalidation of the other person. You always spending money without asking me. There's not invalidation there. So when you don't invalidate your partner, you can come to agreement better. When you discuss your money and have a weekly conversation about your money, it's a lot smoother and things go a lot better.
Right. Yeah, just set some simple things. Maybe it's, hey, if you want to, hey, I saw a sale, make a small fund for it.
Yeah.
This is your I saw a sale fund, and if there's no money in there, there's no money to use for the I saw a sale.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. So I love those are, some straightforward tips. I mean, the reality is nobody feels good when they're not in control. They're that driver's seat of their fortune, of their financial future. And you're working hard anyway. Either if you're single by yourself or you're married, you're working hard for that anyway. And you want a good one, just like you want good things in other areas of life. So definitely a critical component. Martin, those are some valuable tips. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You bet. So we're bringing this episode a little tight just due to some timing of things, but we want to invite everyone back next week. We're going to actually we're talking about money right now. We're going to talk about the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about how to go get the money as we bring on one after another of Grant Cardone licensees. This is just a massive 2-week special where we're bringing those individuals on. These are individuals that have been certified, trained, and to teach Grant Cardone's content. And so they're going to talk to us about sales, about all the different ways that businesses, about individuals can sell. Now, if let's say, for instance, you're working for somebody, it's going to be applicable to you too, because let's face it, if you want to get that pay raise, you're going to have to sell them. If you're working for Martin, you're going to have to sell him on why he's going to give you a pay raise. So definitely a topic that we're going to look forward to. So Martin, thank you so much for making time out of your valuable day. I really sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship as well. And by all means, thank you again. Thank your wife and your team.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate you having me on. I look forward to hanging out with you soon, buddy.
You bet. You bet. We'll talk to you all very soon. And again, everyone, come back next week. We have a fantastic episode planned. And thank you for tuning in, and be great, because nothing else pays.